Hello everyone, my name is Thompson. I'm an acute medicine trainee working in Belfast, and I want to talk to you about a project we're doing to reduce post-lumbar puncture headaches on medical wards. I'm hoping this will be of interest to anyone who works in an environment where lumbar punctures are performed, and also anyone who's doing a quality improvement project and using simulation to achieve change. So, just a bit of background, there's two types of needles used for lumbar puncture. There's the conventional cutting style needle with the bevel at the end, which most people will be familiar with. And there's a newer pencil point atraumatic needle, which in theory reduces the risk of post-lumbar puncture headache because it reduces the trauma of the dural fibers and reduces the CSF leak, which causes the post-lumbar puncture headache. So there was a large meta-analysis in the Lancet which showed that changing from the conventional lumbar puncture needles to the atraumatic ones reduces the incidence of post-lumbar puncture headache from 11 to 4%. So the aim of this project was to try to change our practice from using the conventional needles to the atraumatic needles. So we thought there was 4 steps to try and achieve this. Firstly, what is our local rate of post-lumbar puncture headache using the conventional needles? Secondly, why are we still using these old needles? Thirdly, what changes can we make to encourage people to use the new needles? And fourth, to measure the rate of lumbar puncture headache after we've made the changes. So to look firstly at the baseline data, we did a retrospective audit of one ward in the Royal Victoria Hospital in Belfast that we knew used a lot of that performed a lot of lumbar punctures and used the conventional needles. So there were 243 patients who had a lumbar puncture during this time, 27-month period. And we found that the rate of reattendance, so that was people who represented and were readmitted with a diagnosis of lumbar puncture headache, that was 9.5% of the patients. So that amounted to an additional 43 days in hospital. And the average length of time was 4.5 days for them to represent. And on average, they spent 1.8 days in hospital. So then we had to ask, why are we still using the conventional needles? So we did a survey of some junior doctors. We got 29 responses, mainly from junior grades in medicine, FY2 up to 4 trainees. And we asked them, what is your current level of competence in performing a lumbar puncture? And over half said they would require supervision. Most people actually said that they would choose an atraumatic needle over a cutting needle, but I'm not sure if they knew what an atraumatic needle was when we asked them. We asked them, if you don't use an atraumatic needle, why not? And the most common reasons were that they've been taught to use the old cutting needles, or they haven't been taught to use the atraumatic needles, or that the atraumatic needles weren't available on the ward where they worked, or that they just preferred using the old needles and they had a higher success rate with it. So for all those things, we thought we could do some training here to change their practice. We also asked them if they agreed that there was a higher incidence of complications with using the old needles, and only about half agreed with that statement. So half people thought that there wasn't any change or there wasn't any difference in complications using the atraumatic needle. So there was a bit of a knowledge gap there as well. So we asked them if they would feel a lumbar puncture pack would be useful. A lumbar puncture pack obviously has all the equipment needed for a lumbar puncture within the pack, and you can put the atraumatic needle in the pack as well to encourage people to use the atraumatic needles more. And most people thought that would be a good idea, and they also said they would like to receive training in the use of atraumatic needles. So then we tried to think of ways we can change people's practice. So we'd identified 3 main reasons why people were still using the old needles. Firstly, a lack of knowledge that the atraumatic needles were better. Secondly, a lack of skill or confidence in using the atraumatic needles. And thirdly, these needles just not being available on the wards. So some of the changes we made We did a simulation session using the atraumatic needles. We introduced the lumbar puncture packs that I was talking about. We changed the stock order on the wards so that they started ordering in the atraumatic needles, and the numbers of the cutting needles started to decline. And we introduced a pro forma which prompted people to use the new type of needle. So we did the simulation session recently, and this was a task trainer training and practice on it. 30 to 35 doctors of all grades from consultant down to F1. The mannequin was left on the ward for a couple of days, and different groups of doctors were able to practice using the new needles. There was some education about the benefits of using the atraumatic needles as well, and we got very good feedback from this. So this just leaves us really with measuring what the rate of post-lumbar puncture headache is after making these changes, and it's taken longer than expected to introduce all those changes, so we don't yet know if it has made a difference, but we're hoping that it's in line with the literature and we have reduced the rate of lumbar puncture headache. Thanks very much.